We arrived at the planet designated as Aurelian, located 105 light-years from Earth, with the aim of assessing the viability of colonization and the possibility of extracting natural resources that could save humanity from an exhausted Earth. I, Dr. Helena Mourinho, led the medical team assigned to monitor the health of the expedition members, which was composed of scientists, engineers, and military personnel, with the objective of establishing a temporary base for initial studies. As we crossed the threshold of Aurelian's atmosphere, we were greeted by an unusual landscape, vast deserts with a greenish hue, interspersed with forests of gigantic trees with crystalline trunks, and skies tinted violet and orange, a result of the unique composition of the local gases. The diffuse glow of the distant sun created an almost ethereal, dreamlike atmosphere. It was as if the planet were the refuge of an ancient dream, where every element merged with the promise of a new beginning. The base installation proceeded without major mishaps. We set up living modules, laboratories, and research areas, while the military team, led by Captain Rodrigo, took charge of security and perimeter maintenance. During the first few days, we conducted geological and biotic surveys, and each discovery filled our hearts with hope. The planet exuded potential, fertile soils, and rare minerals that could reverse Earth's environmental decline. However, even amid the exotic beauty and promises of a prosperous future, an unsettling feeling hung over all of us. There was something in the silence of the environment that made us question whether we were alone on this world, or if unknown forces were watching our every move. After the initial phase of installation, the days passed quickly among soil sampling, flora analysis, and sky observations. The first reports indicated an abundance of elements essential for life and a peculiar biodiversity never before seen on any other known planet. Amid this routine of discoveries, inexplicable reports of strange phenomena began to emerge. On the third day, during a routine expedition in the eastern region of the base, Sergeant Luis reported having seen shadows moving erratically among the trees. Initially, we thought it was a play of light and shadow, but the finding of unknown fingerprints and deep marks on the ground indicated that something more sinister was at work. In a preliminary report, I recorded the following. During the nightly perimeter rounds, sensors detected atypical thermal variations and movements that do not correlate with the known fauna. There are indications of an active, yet unidentified presence lurking in the border area. Despite the growing nervousness, the commanders decided to intensify surveillance. Monitoring cameras and drones were deployed to record any anomalies. However, the captured images were fragmented and almost always obscured by strange interferences. The feeling of being watched increased with each passing minute, and the environment, once full of promise, now carried a weight of fear and uncertainty. On the fourth night, the apparent calm was brutally interrupted. While I was making rounds along the perimeter, I was alerted by the base's internal alarm. A patrol unit, led by Sergeant Luis, had been ambushed near a peculiar rocky formation, later identified as a natural structure of luminescent minerals. Reports indicated that a creature, with a grotesque appearance and almost inhuman movements, attacked the group violently and relentlessly. The survivors' accounts were vague and filled with terror. They described the creature as a formless mass of limbs and appendages, with glowing eyes and skin that seemed to dissolve and reform constantly, as if adapting its shape to the environment. The creature used the terrain to its advantage, disappearing into the darkness and reappearing to launch precise attacks. Panic quickly set in among the team, and the belief that we were on an innocuous world began to fade. I reported the occurrence in real time, emphasizing that our safety protocols had not anticipated such a threat. The first victims were the scientists, responsible for documenting the local fauna, and soon the military personnel also became targets. Chaos ensued, and the base, which had been erected with so much hope, turned into a battleground where death lurked in every shadow. After the devastating attack, the situation at the base became unsustainable. Attempts to identify the creature were futile, as it moved with a speed and intelligence that defied any monitoring system. During emergency meetings, heated debates between the scientists and the military became frequent. Some argued that the creature was an evolutionary manifestation of Aurelian's own ecosystem, while others saw it as a being with predatory intentions, possibly a species that evolved to defend its territory at any cost. As both a physician and scientist, recorded every detail, trying to understand if there was a connection between the planet's natural elements and the creature's behavior. I discovered that, in certain areas, sensors detected an unusual bioelectrical energy that coincided with the moments of attack. This energy seemed to be the source of the creature's life, fueling its predatory instincts and allowing it to camouflage perfectly in the environment. With the increase in attacks, the base began operating under quarantine. All exits were blocked, and communications with Earth started to fail, possibly due to electromagnetic interference originating from the planet itself. The tension grew with each passing day, and fear turned into paranoia. Trust among the team. Members crumbled, and mutual suspicions and accusations arose, fueling a cycle of collective panic. In a tense meeting, Captain Rodrigo ordered everyone to gather in the command center. There, we discussed containment strategies and possible escape routes, but each plan was quickly undone by the unpredictability of the threat. The creature always seemed one step ahead, claiming lives in a brutal and silent manner. I noted in my diary that, at that moment, the planet Aurelion had transformed into a vivid nightmare, where the hope for a new home merged with the horror of an unknown menace. As the days turned into endless nights, the number of survivors dwindled drastically. Each new attack left deep marks not only on the body, but also on the soul of those who remained. For long hours, I sought to understand the nature of the being that hunted us. I recall revisiting sensor records and finding mysterious patterns, lines of energy that spread across the ground and concentrated at specific points, as if the very Earth were trying to communicate something. On a field expedition organized to investigate one of these energy zones, my team and I ventured into a forest of luminescent trees, where the branches seemed to whisper secrets of bygone eras. In the midst of that ethereal environment, we found a semi-buried ancient device, inscribed with markings that suggested a long-forgotten technology. We believed that this artifact could, in some way, be related to the creature and to the planet's energy balance. However, while we were investigating, a piercing and disturbing sound shattered the silence. In an instant, the creature appeared, attacking with an almost supernatural fury. The confrontation was brief and devastating. I watched, colleagues being cut down before my eyes, and I felt the acute pain of loss as despair took hold of my heart. Amid the chaos, the search for answers blended with the instinct for survival. Every step was taken with the awareness that death could be lurking around any corner. The horror transformed into a slow descent into the abyss, where sanity was eroded by the constant presence of the evil that inhabited Aurelion. I mentally recorded every detail, even as I struggled to maintain calm and avoid succumbing to panic. That mysterious artifact, the energy patterns, the whispers of the forest, everything seemed to conspire to reveal an ancient secret, a pact between nature and the unknown that defied the laws of physics and morality. It was in this maelstrom of fear and uncertainty that I began to question not only the mission, but the very reason for our existence on this planet. The following days were marked by a desperate struggle for survival. The casualties were massive, and communication with Earth, once a channel of hope, turned into a distant, incomprehensible echo. The messages I managed to send were short and laden with fear, describing a situation rapidly spiraling out of control. During one of these transmissions, I noticed that the numbers were dwindling. One by one, my colleagues fell victim to the creature's relentless violence. The final moments were confused, as if reality itself were unraveling amid screams and laments. I found temporary refuge in an underground laboratory, where remnants of an ancient and advanced technology suggested that Aurelion's former inhabitants might have already faced similar horrors. There, among records and digital documents, I sought answers that could explain the inexplicable, but the truth I found was as fragmented as the very ruins of the civilization that once flourished there. Every piece of data seemed to point to a cycle of self-destruction, where the quest for power and knowledge had unleashed an entity destined to maintain balance at any cost. That night, as I listened to the muffled screams echoing from the corridors, I wrote my final report. My hands trembled, and the digital ink merged with the adrenaline of a heart about to give out. I knew I was alone. That ancient device, which might have been the key to unraveling Aurelion's mysteries, had been our last hope, but it had also become the epicenter of an uncontrollable evil. In the end, as I write this report with what little sanity remains, I question whether I am still alive, or if I have already become part of the enigma that haunts this planet. The laboratory lights flicker, and a sense of déjà vu invades my mind. Perhaps I have never been able to escape the fate sealed by Aurelion, or perhaps my consciousness is slowly being absorbed by this entity, turning me into yet another record of its eternal vigilance. My final words in this diary serve as a warning to anyone who might one day find this document. Aurelion's truth is as ancient as the universe itself, and its thirst for balance is ruthless. If you dare come to this world, be prepared to face not only the unknown, but also the darkness that dwells within the human heart. As I finish this account, the darkness thickens around me. I do not know if my next lines will be read by a living being or if they will be swallowed by the eternal silence of this cursed planet. What I do know is that, somehow, my essence will continue to wander among the shadows of Aurelian, a mere echo, perhaps, of a hope that once tried to be reborn. This account comes to an end, but my presence, or the essence that remains of me, remains indecipherable. The mission, which began with promises of salvation and renewal, has turned into an endless nightmare, where the boundary between life and death has become indistinct. If these words are ever found, may they serve as a warning to future explorers and to those who dare unravel the mysteries of Aurelian. I persist, or perhaps I remain only as an echo, a fragment of consciousness lost among the shadows of the unknown. The truth of the planet and its entity remains shrouded in mist, and the ultimate fate of this account, and possibly my own, is a mystery that may never be fully revealed. The narrative recorded here is both a warning and a testimony of what happens when the unknown infiltrates the heart of humanity. The planet Aurelian, with its exotic landscapes and ancient secrets, showed us that the future does not always promise salvation. Sometimes, true terror lies in that which we cannot comprehend or control. Every member of the expedition had hopes and dreams, but fate, relentless and mysterious, chose to eliminate everyone except one, me, Dr. Helena Mourinho. And now, at this indistinct point between life and death, I cannot say with certainty whether I still breathe or if my consciousness has been absorbed by the abyss that lurks within Aurelian. All that remains is to record this testimony in the eye, hope that somehow the truth will come to light and serve as a lesson to those who dare challenge the limits of the unknown. May this account remain as an echo, a warning for future generations. The quest for new worlds may sometimes reveal horrors beyond our wildest imaginations, and in the search for answers, let us never forget that there are secrets which perhaps should remain untouched.